Yo, boys and girls, what's going on? It's your boy Peter here, aka Peter Freako 10, baby. Bringing you guys an episode of the Movie Review Show, where the good movies are always reviewed. Okay, back in doing our movie review today, and we're continuing ScreamFeast. All right. And we're back into that Scream WB era that people put these slasher films in a box with. Because we're talking about another one. We talked about I Know What You Did Last Summer. But then there comes one that I feel manages to stand on its own and do something unique and not just be Scream 2.0 or I Know What You Did Last Summer 2.0, which actually does have a sequel, which I do plan to see. And this is one that the idea itself really drew me to it. And I was really on board for it after reading the Fangoria issue and seeing the trailer, who was involved. And it just really had a lot going for it. And what film is that, you may be asking? Today, boys and girls, we are talking about Urban Legend. Hell yeah, baby. How does Urban Legend fare in this genre with Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer out? Well, grab your coats, grab your axes, grab whatever you can, and grab your CD with the Dawson's Creek theme played, because let's talk about Urban Legend. Now, Urban Legend, this is a film made in 1998, and this is directed by a guy named Jamie Blanks. Now, Jamie Blanks, this is actually his film debut. Before this, he directed a short called Silent Number, which I haven't seen, but he's not the one this idea stems from. That honor goes to Silvio Horta, who around 1997 had graduated from the NYU and had moved up to LA. He got his first job working at a perfume counter, test spraying perfume at a Nordstrom's. In his spare time waiting for customers, he would script ideas for stories. One in particular, he had an idea that he wanted to do was a movie based around urban legends, and later decided that the best place to tackle that area would be with horror. Horror at this point had seen a massive resurgence thanks to the release of Scream, and Scream 2 was just around the corner, and I Know What You Did Last Summer was finishing up production. So he decided to come up with the idea of this film with the plot about a killer who kills people using urban legends. He had shown the idea to his agent, Gina Matthews, who involved herself in writing the script with him into its final form, and became so involved, she became a producer, and she also helped shop it around. It was a hard sell at first, being Silvio wasn't a huge name in the filmmaking world, till it caught the attention of two people. The first one being Brad Dourif, who had seen some of Silvio's work in the past, but became drawn to Urban Legend as he liked the hip vibe Silvio brought to the movie, and he liked how it connected with the audience that he was targeting. The other being Neil H. Moritz. He had just come off the big hit of I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we previously reviewed, and was looking for the next big thing when he came across the script for Urban Legend and jumped on as a producer, helping get TriStar and Phoenix Pictures to help distribute the movie. The only thing left to do was find a person to sit in the chair that hasn't been filled yet. The director. And that honor went to Jamie Blanks to helm the movie. The team were made aware of his work, being that Jamie was in the running to direct I Know What You Did Last Summer. In fact, he even did a fake trailer for that movie. But the job went to Jim Gillespie, as we know, but the crew kept his name in mind, as well as his talents based on his short film that got him the job for this movie. Once that was settled, they were given a budget of $14 million. A smaller budget than that of I Know What You Did Last Summer, but in the range of the first Scream, and they got their cast together. A couple of the cast members they got were actually huge names in the horror industry and didn't even have to read a script. The movie was shot on location in Toronto at their university, which served as the stand-in for the fictional university Templeton, the location of which that the film was set in. There were some shooting locations that weren't on the university, in particular the abandoned building at the end and the gas station in the opening, which was actually the first thing they shot, as Jamie insisted that would be the place he would use to showcase his directing talents for the film, of which were influenced by Sam Raimi and John Carpenter. He wanted to combine the talents of those two while also giving it a bit of a 90s flair. In particular, Jamie's use of the camera in this movie came from his home movies, particularly the overhead shots. Despite it being a slasher movie, Jamie, much like Jim Gillespie when he was directing I Know What You Did Last Summer, insisted on making sure the violence wasn't too extreme, with particular points of the script that had the violence toned down in the final film. With that said, some scenes did require some technical planning. The cast themselves also became really involved in the film. In particular, Tara Reid, who performed her own stunts during the chase scene, and the stuntman who was chasing her was handling a real axe. Shooting lasted till the summer, and they screened the movie, which got them a favorable response. The movie was released on September 25th, 1998, and it opened to number 3 at the box office, grossing over $10 million in a single weekend, as Rush Hour was still at the top spot. Despite that whole thing, the movie did manage to make a profit in the weeks that follow, as it made over $33 million. While falling short of I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream's opening, it was still profitable for the studio. However, the movie receives negative reviews from critics, as on Rotten Tomatoes, it carries a 29%. Critics praised the film on a technical level, especially J.B. Blakes' direction, the score by Christopher Young. Some were impressed by the idea and the cast, elements that Roger Ebert praised in his 2-star review of the movie. However, the critics who didn't like it were critical of elements that they felt borrowed from Scream. Some felt the film was uninspired. Some combined with the excessive violence that they felt was really too much, while others complained about the characters being unlikable. The audience, though, was a 37%, so it's mixed there, and on IMDb is a 5.6 out of 10. Society's so fucking stupid. I want to know what movie these critics were watching. I really want to know what this soulless movie is. I really want to know, how is it soulless, how is it uninspired, and how is it a 29%? Yet Bride of Chucky, which I don't hate, but I feel it's inferior to the other 3, that gets a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's trying to be more meta. That's trying to be more in the vein of Scream than this movie. That gets the pass, but this gets shit? That's a load of bullshit. Now, granted, it's all a matter of opinions. I know that. But I don't get why this film is getting so much hate. I don't get why it's being called a Scream wannabe. Because it's not. Why? Because it has the WB cast. It has that same sort of teenage drama aspect to the story. Yes, that you can argue, but once again, it's not going for the meta setup of, say, Scream or Bride of Chucky. It doesn't even feel or look like Scream compared to, say, like Halloween H2O. Not saying it's bad. I'm just pointing out that that looks more like Scream as opposed to this movie. And I'll touch deeper on that later. And I know there's going to be people asking me, which do I like more, this or I Know What You Did Last Summer? That's hard to say, as despite both being slashers, they are both different beasts. With that said, there are areas in this that I think of these movies, this does the best. I'll explain those later. But with the cast in this film, you got the gorgeous fox, Alicia Witt in this. Alicia Witt, this is a woman from TV Sybil. She was on Twin Peaks. She was in Dune. Moving from one fox to another, we get Rebecca Gayheart, who is in Nothing to Lose. She's going to be in Jawbreaker with Rose McGowan. Jared Leto from TV's My So-Called Life, Switchback. Loretta Devine from Waiting to Exhale. Tara Reid from Return to Salem's Lot in The Big Lebowski. Michael Rosenbaum, who was on an episode of The Tom Green Show, and he was in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Joshua Jackson from TV's Dawson Creeks and The Mighty Ducks. You also have small roles from people in the horror community, like Daniela Harris from Halloween 4 and 5, Brad Dourif, yes, the voice of Chucky, and he was also in Exorcist 3, and even Robert Englund, yes, Freddy himself, who was also in Strangeland, which I do plan to talk about next. But getting into the film, the plot of the movie is it basically takes place at this campus where we meet this student named Natalie, played by Alicia Witt, who, along with her best friend Brenda, played by Rebecca Gayheart, are in the middle of urban legends being this hot topic around the campus, as not only are they going over it in their class with their professor, played by Robert Englund, but also because we find out that the campus itself is the location of where this massacre took place, and it's approaching the anniversary, and every year the kids on there celebrate it. However, as it gets closer this year, a student on the campus ends up being killed in a way similar to an urban legend, which at first doesn't seem to faze the college, till later on the killer shows up on the campus dressed in a snow hoodie and starts killing off the students in a way resembling urban legends, all of which the killings tie in some way to Natalie. So now she needs to figure out who the killer is, how to stop him or her, with the help of this college journalist named Paul, played by Jared Leto. All the while, the school security guard, Reid, tries to figure out what is going on. Will Natalie be able to figure out who the killer is and how she ties to it, or will her death become its own urban legend? Urban legend has much more going for it than just being a Scream with urban legends. And the film works because it does not try to go with the self-aware route of Scream, much like how I Know What You Did Last Summer did. And I think in both films, it was the right call not to go that route and stand on its own, because I can't see the meta vibe working here. As yes, horror films, you can pick apart of the cliches, and you can pick apart with the idea of a girl running up the stairs and when she should be running out the front door, as Scream put it. But urban legends, there is nothing to make fun of or be meta with. So I like that this one is more straight-faced, and I think the idea itself is very interesting, where it's someone on the campus killing someone based on urban legends. And I think that's interesting as it sets itself apart from not just Scream, but other slashers of the time and even of the 80s. And I find it really clever with the setups of how they are tied into this world, the urban legends themselves, being that the campus they are on has an urban legend tied to it and their class is discussing it, which the scenes involving those areas allow for some witty and funny dialogue, particularly from Joshua Jackson and Michael Rosenbaum, particularly the scene with the Pop Rocks and the soda and Joshua fakes his stomach blowing up. That I thought was really funny. Scenes like that, I feel like, are able to have some witty dialogue without resorting to diet soda Scream with urban legends, like so many people have claimed, or make the same meta joke. So the way it approaches the urban legend area is really smart and creepy with how the movie manages to turn fiction into reality in these sort of areas. And with all three, this, Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, put into the group, I do feel this has some advantages that put it over those two, in particular with Scream and the Killer, as it is not relying on the whodunit angle to progress the story. And I think with the idea of it being urban legends used to kill people, it allows the killer to be a bit more creative than Ghostface. That we'll get into later when it comes to effects. But I thought that aspect allowed a certain uniqueness to the killer that I felt Scream was lacked. Since Ghostface relies mostly on his knife to kill people, I appreciate that. And I even appreciate, while there is some teen drama angles, in particular the romance, much like how I Know What You Did Last Summer did it with Natalie and Paul and Rebecca Gayheart, and that there's this small love triangle between the three. It doesn't go out of its way to remind us of the plot point and fuse it with the story, unlike I Know What You Did Last Summer, which tries to fuse it with the horror and the teen drama angle with Freddie and Jennifer. So I like that. I like that it didn't make the film feel slow. Now, one aspect of the story I do feel could have been so much better in particular moments is when the film tries to do the fake outs, which ties into the design of the killer, which I love. I think it looks great. I like the jacket they picked. I like that it covers the killer's face. There are some great moments involving the killer that are very creepy, But at times it feels like it was only chosen just so it can hide the killer's identity, because the environment that the movie is set in makes no sense, especially when it looks like spring weather. Night I can understand, because at night around that time it does get cold. But there's one scene where you see someone walking into a pool and you think, oh my God, it's the killer. They do a fake out there and take it off. Oh no, it's not the killer. And it makes no sense why someone else would be wearing that. And it just felt it was added in just to get a false sense of surprise going. That's the only aspect of the script, though, that I feel misses the mark. Because aside from that problem, everything else works in this film. Now, on the production side of things, I think Jamie did a wonderful job directing this film. You can tell this is a guy who loves the horror genre. You can tell this is a guy who studied particular directors such as Sam Raimi and John Carpenter's directing talents, but also brought his own touch to the table, because he gives the film this very gothic and just soaked in darkness sort of feeling that really adds to the setting, especially in the night scenes where he knows how to give the correct amount of light and darkness. Look no further than the opening scene with the killer in the back seat with Natasha Gregson Williams. I think that perfectly represents how he understands mood and the right amount of darkness and light to use in particular scenes. That scene in particular with the rain and how it's flashing and you see no one, then it flashes again and you see the killer in the back. The rain scenes especially, they have some great lighting, not just that scene, but all the other rain scenes, the bluish sort of light. I think they create some great atmosphere there. Along with that, his use of the camera in certain shots. I love the overhead shots in certain moments, like at the gas station, or his placement of the camera, like the scene when Michael Rosenbaum opens the microwave that the killer put his dog in. You see chunks of the dog, because you get the idea the dog exploded in the microwave. It's a very grisly sight, but it's not excessive. Or even the moment with Tara Reid being chased through the radio studio and the killer is chasing her, and you have a cool shot where Tara locks herself in the stairs as she's trying to escape, and you see her face like right here and the window's right there, and where the killer's face would be revealed, where it's blacked out, it's Tara's face there screaming. The fact they did that adds a really cool shot there in a really, really intense scene that is a part of. And the fact that they shot this movie on actual sets gives this a great sense of authenticity. He gets a lot out of the locations he uses when filming and how he directs the actors involved in those moments, especially in the final. When it comes to the kills, I do disagree with Jamie on them not being as gory as the other films in the slasher genre, because they are bloody enough, and I think they're shot well, they are vicious, you see enough of what's going on to get an idea, and they're more in your face with the violence, as opposed to I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was vicious, but that was done more in the way where they were told through sounds of people dying. This is definitely more in your face with it. And despite not being as bloody as, say, Friday the 13th Part 4, I still appreciate that we still got some cool kills out of it and that they were on screen. And at the end of the day, I appreciate the touch that Jamie set out to give the movie. He wasn't trying to copy Wes or Jim's direction in either Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, and he made a good-looking film. I agree with Roger Ebert in that area. The acting is also solid, I gotta say. Alicia Witt does great as the lead. She really gives the character this everyday college girl that you wouldn't mind getting a coffee and talking to. She's down to earth. And she has a cute girl next dorm sort of personality. I like the fact that she isn't a party girl, but kind of has that bookworm sort of outlook to her, like Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. But she's also strong. I like the scene with her and Joshua Jackson in the car, and he tries to hit on her, and she's like, "Nice try. Could you be any more cheesier?" Something like that. But I liked her. I thought she was a likable lead, definitely easy to get behind. As opposed to, say, Jennifer Love Hewitt, I like the fact that they didn't try and copy her or Neve Campbell. And I like the fact that when you find out about why the killer is stalking her, you get the idea that she does feel guilty about what happened, and there is a sense of remorse to her. Some people I've said found her emotionless. I disagree. If you want that, watch Friday the 13th Part 8 with the lead girl. So overall, Alicia Witt does great as the lead. Rebecca Gayheart, damn, is she hot, along with Alicia. I loved her in this movie. She's the opposite of Alicia. She's more the party girl, but she is taken swimming in this film. I like the moments between the two. You get the idea that the two share this sort of bond and that they got each other's back in this situation. And basically, all around, I think the two work well together, Rebecca especially. And even when the stuff goes down, I think she does a great job playing scared and being a part of this whole thing. That is until you find out the twist, which I'm going to put a spoiler here. So if you guys don't want the twist, turn your volume down. She's the killer. I thought she was great there too. She is a hoot to watch. She chews the scenery up so good. Lucky for you, Miss Thang. And I'll tell you, she looks hot psycho, I gotta say. The nice bra strap hanging out there. So yeah, if she had me in a room, she can do what she wants to me. I could say that. But she's great in this movie. Beautiful lady too. Both of them are beautiful. Jared Leto, I also thought was very good for what he has to do. His character is more sprinkled about in the beginning, and then when the middle portion kicks off, that's when he becomes a central figure. He does well, though, for what he's given, being this journalist who joins Alicia Witt and finding out who the killer is. At first, he might seem like he's a bit of a douchebag, being that at first he cares about getting the story, but then as shit goes down, he begins to change his outlook on the whole thing and starts to defend her and trying to basically figure out what's going on. I think he did well, though, and I think him and Alicia Witt had good chemistry with each other. It's not all throughout the film, but when it is there, I thought it was done well. Loretta Devine, I actually thought was a lot of fun as this security guard who's trying to figure out what's going on. I like the fact that she's watching Foxy Brown though, and kind of taking influence from her, kind of mimicking her as she points the gun at the TV. She's not the typical black loudmouth. And she does come out heroic at the end and even taking matters into her own hands, which, spoiler, she doesn't die. So I really, really appreciate that. I like the scenes of her yelling at the dude on the phone, telling them to bring the police, but they can't because of the storm. I liked her. Tara Reid, I also thought did fine. I know some people don't like her in this film or as an actress, and I can understand, but for what she did well. Basically, she's like this radio host who's helping people with their sexual problems. I like the scene where in the first part of the film where she's talking with this chick who's talking about how her roommate's pregnant because she was stealing her birth control pills and switching them with Tic Tacs. That got a good laugh out of me. And I like the fact that she's going for Kama Sutra to basically have sex with her boyfriend, and they're doing kinky shit together. There's a deleted scenes where she's dressed up as a belly dancer. That was in the trailer, but I hope that gets put on the DVD. I'll check it out there. But the two have their really funny moments. The two are great together, Tara and Michael, who definitely are great together. And I gotta give Tara Reid this. The scene when she's doing the stunts on her own, like that's chased through the radio station with the killer, it's amazing that she was able to do that. Just how she was hanging off the balcony and all that. And just the fact that she was like, no, I want to do that. I want to do that stunt. I think it'll be fun. So say what you want about Tara, but I really respect her for doing that. Michael is also funny. I thought he had some great parts. I like his whole thing when basically you find they put together like this killer's killing people with urban legend. He goes, what's next? Is he going to put spider eggs in bubble gum? Stuff like that I thought was funny. Other actors, you got Daniela Harris as Alyssa's roommate who keeps bringing guys to her room and having sex and talking over AOL chat rooms. Joshua Jackson is one of the students who this whole thing gets going because of him. Robert Englund is this teacher who basically is teaching the kids about urban legends, and there's like this whole red herring of him being the killer. Brad Dourif's also in this as this guy who works at a gas station. It's a pretty stacked cast in this movie, and they all do well for what they're given. There's not one that I think does a bad job. But of course, let's talk about the kills and the special effects, which are very good. They are very bloody and very unique, being that they're all based off urban legends. Like, one guy gets his Achilles tendons cut under his car, and when trying to crawl away to safety, the killer takes the brake off the car and runs him over, and he falls into these spikes. Michael Rosenbaum gets tied up and gets pop rocks and Drano shoved down his throat. And the way that scene was shot was so brutal. I like how they did the foam coming out of his mouth in that scene. I thought it looked really cool. But the practical effects in those moments look great. The blood looks great. It doesn't look like CGI blood. It looks like there's a good usage of practical blood. And it's not excessive to the point of Friday 13th Part 4 standards. But the kills are definitely more in the vein of Carnage Candy, and definitely are on full display here. So if you were disappointed with I Know What You Did Last Summer and not having the kills on screen, you'll find some great kills here, even though I like how they did it in I Know What You Did Last Summer. This is for those who didn't like that, though. And last but not least, accompanying those moments is a great score by Christopher Young. Same guy did the score for Hellraiser, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and The Fly 2, which also contributes to the moody and gothic atmosphere and the kills. In particular, the opening with that choir, the I can't do it. I'm not good with these scores, guys, even though I love them, which I thought opened the film beautifully. But yeah, what more can I say about Urban Legend? I love this movie, and it deserves to be recognized more than just this Scream wannabe. And I've talked about one of the problems that I did have with the film so far. If there was one other problem that I did have, I wish the final battle did go on for a bit longer, as I wish there was more of a fight between Alicia Witt and the killer. I'm not going to say who it is because I spoiled it earlier. I have a spoiler thing there for those who want to see it. But I wish there was a final battle that had more of an ending in the way of Scream or even I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, hey, they use their way of killing people with the urban legends against the killer and show it come back onto them. And I like how, and even though Loretta Devine lives, you could have her play into the final sort of way while still having her live. It just, the final felt over way too quickly. And was all in this one small room, which I liked, but I felt like it could have been on a bit longer. But bottom line, Urban Legend is an unfairly maligned slasher that deserves more than just to be lumped into the bin of being the Scream wannabe slashers. It's unique, it's entertaining, and offers up a great deal of kills to the pleasure who takes pleasure in seeing that stuff. So I highly recommend you check out Urban Legend. It's probably, to me, one of the best horror films of the late 90s, and totally, I'm sorry to say this, because I know I have friends who like this film, totally kicks the shit out of Bride of Chucky, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, when it comes down to Urban Legend, I give Urban Legend a 9.8 out of 10, and it deserves it. Therefore gets the Alexandra seal of approval. Definitely one to check out if you like these sort of slashers. If you're looking for a good Halloween film, this is it. But that's my review for Urban Legend. Next time I'm going to do a review on D. Snyder's Strangeland. I've started filming that a bit while also filming this, so be on the lookout for that. But for right now, this is where I'm going to end this video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of Urban Legend. Which is your favorite of that 90s era sort of slashers so far? Which do you like the most? It's tied between this and I Know What You Did Last Summer for me. I'd love to know you guys' thoughts, what you guys think of the film. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.